and welcome back to Girls in the Paddock. You're here with Lara and Georgia and some very special guests today. We will be discussing women in motorsport, F1 Academy, and women in motorsport who inspire us. But first, let's get our special guests to introduce themselves. Caity, Tiana, tell us about you guys.
Caity, you go first.
Oh, okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Caity, but most people know me as Danny Rick's bitch. About this time last year, I started a TikTok account that has quickly grown into a TikTok, an Instagram, a Spotify, and of course, being my best friend Tiana's co-host on our podcast, on her podcast, From the Field to the Track. I post mostly stuff about F1, but I also love F2 and F3. Absolutely adore motorsport in general and have been on this journey for just under a year. Started with Drive to Survive about this time last year. So I'm a relatively new fan, but nevertheless, I've never missed a GP since I started watching them. So I'm committed. But yeah, Tiana, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Tiana. I started watching motorsport 2021 Abu Dhabi. My dad's always been a huge motorsport fan, so I've kind of always grown up with it. Similar to like Georgia, I know that you're kind of not interested in it during your childhood, but then as you get older, you're kind of just like, oh my gosh, this is actually really cool. Um, I started this podcast, From the Field to the Track. It's called From the Field to the Track because it's meant to be an NRL XF1 podcast. But we don't really talk about NRL because Caity and Marie don't really know much about NRL. But yeah, so I started this all with the hopes of becoming a motorsport or footy journalist because it's really what I want to do with my life because I really don't stop talking about it. As you can see by my room, it is covered in Formula One merch.
We love.
But honestly, I love it so much and I couldn't ask for anything better. And I'm so excited to be here on this podcast today with you girls. You're all absolutely amazing and I love you all.
We're so excited to have you guys here. These lovely ladies are our first ever collab, so we're freaking out, having a bit of a fangirl moment. Very keen as beans to be doing this. But we'll get right into it. So today we're looking at discussing all about the F1 Academy, being women in motorsports and in sports. We thought this is like the perfect conversation for us and just discussing the beginning of it for this year and just kind of going about like the broadcasting issues of it all and promoting of it and what you guys think about it. So I'll pass it over to Lara, who's done a lot more research than me. She's really the backbone of this podcast. So,
Yeah,
Backbone.
I love the start to F1 Academy. Honestly, the technical side of it has been really interesting to break down. So, like, a few fun facts is that the chassis that they use is actually the Tatis F4T4, which is used across all F4 championships. And so F1 Academy got it as well, which is pretty exciting.
That is pretty cool.
And, as we know, we've only got 7 race weekends. However, we do get to see 21 races across it. But that leads me to the disappointing broadcasting. We don't even get to see the races. We just kind of get the highlights, which is obviously incredibly disappointing. And I'll pass it over to you guys. How do you feel about that? What do you think should be done? How do you think that this should be fixed, I guess?
Well, I was really like when the news first broke that we weren't going to be able to watch F1 Academy live. I just kind of was upset because I was like, they've put so much hype and so much media into this. Like, so many people were so excited, and I do understand the fact that obviously F1 Academy, the times do kind of run at the same time as F1 or F2 and F3 sometimes. But there are like things that they did with what do you call it, W Series, where they got other streaming services to provide that, because at the end of the day, F1 Academy was started with the hopes and the intentions to get women into Formula One.
Exactly
And
right.
we're seeing it now with like Sophia Flourish. She's in F3 this year, and obviously I can't remember what her name was. Oh, Tatiana. She was in
Tatiana?
F3 last year as
Calderon, yeah.
well. Yeah. So, it has potential to work, and obviously these women are doing amazing things.
For
And
sure.
Yeah,
a lot of these race winners that we're seeing, they're different. So I just think that the public and F1 fans and motorsport fans in general, just, and these drivers as well, like they have achieved, like Hamda achieved amazing things, and
yeah,
I think we deserve to see that. Like I just think
Yes,
that
for
they
sure.
deserve to be shown on the TV, and we
yeah.
deserve to see it.
It's hard to like get people to be interested in sport and support them and back them when you're not promoting it at
Mm,
all. And I think that's the big issue. Like if you like look on like their Instagram account, all the comments like would have loved to see this live. Like pissed off that I'm like waiting an hour later to hear the results from Instagram because it's frustrating. It's still like they're not
Yeah.
going to get far with it if they keep it under the bus. That's the issue.
yeah.
And then they're kind of like, deter these women from being able to get in, which is what I see as frustrating. And then it makes you question like, what's the point of this F1 Academy if you're not actually giving these women the opportunity to show
Mm,
their skills on a,
Mm-hmm.
universal kind of scale like the F1 boys and the F2 boys. Like it kind of gets to the point where should they just be trying to get into F4 and F3 instead and not worry about this whole F1 Academy thing? So it gets a bit, technical and
mm.
questionable on how this is going to work.
Yeah, I gotta say, it's been pretty disappointing that Formula One as a corporation created this women's academy and then didn't think that, we should put it on F1 TV, like at the very least. Like, I know not everyone
Yeah.
has F1 TV, but like, that is a much bigger streaming platform than nothing.
I know F1 TV posted Bianca's win last weekend, but they only posted the podiums part. But like, still, you want to see what's led up to that, which I think makes it frustrating. Like, do you girls know much about what's going on in the F1 Academy? Like, drive, like, not having a, it sounds like I'm having a dig, but like, just in general, because I feel like it's so under the bus. It's like, do you actually like know?
Yeah.
Like, you've got
Yeah,
to
I
do
think I think
research
I
to
know
really
a few of
understand
them, like if they've driven for
what
like
TV on and you're like,
people
oh.
or I've seen them on my Instagram. But I think my the way that I
Yeah.
look at it is
It's definitely like the bigger teams, like you're looking more at
it
like Prema and stuff, and you're like, oh, I know who they are because of this. Because
yeah.
like that's definitely like how
Yeah.
we've done our research to kind of comprehend what it all is, because it is very under the bus in a sense. Like the only real women I kind of know from it is the ones that have come from the W series from last year before that was cancelled.
Yeah, and I think for me, like I
Yeah,
like
no.
recognize a few of the drivers' names. And it's so I feel bad for them because I'm like, how are they supposed to get sponsorship and how is the series supposed to continue going if people can't see it, people can't engage with the content. And I think people
Yeah,
like to be able to watch motorsports in like a whole bunch of different ways. Like some people, of course, people are going to interact with it in different ways. Some people are only going to follow drivers or like other things like that. And some people are only going to watch the highlights reels. But a large chunk of fans want to watch races. And I think there was especially a lot of women who were like, I'm going to get right in behind F1 Academy. I'm going to support it. I'm going to love the drivers. You know what I mean? I'm going to actually invest time as well as money into enjoying this sport.
Mm-hmm.
And by
yeah,
not
exactly.
broadcasting it, they take away a chunk of that. And I think you're right by asking us, do you even know like any of the F1 Academy drivers? No, I don't, because at the end of the day, if I can't see them race, I can't
Yeah,
interact with
which
it in the
is
same way that I
so
want to interact with it.
disappointing.
Exactly. That's the issue. Yeah, definitely.
Like,
And
we shouldn't be having to do extra research to just find out, basic information. Like, it should just be
Yeah, for sure.
so widely and easily accessible,
yeah,
like
and I
such as
completely
F2 and F3
agree
are.
with you, Katie, in the sense of sponsorships. It's not just fans that aren't going to pick up on them, it's the public. It's people who can offer sponsorships and help them pursue their career further because you don't know who they are. Like, that's the issue. And if
Mm-hmm.
we don't, why would sponsors? Like,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
F1 fans and we're into F2. We've said it in our podcast with like F3 as well. So it's like one of those things where if we
Yeah.
don't even know what is going on in the whole world of the F1 Academy, how will sponsors? So how far will they really get with it? Like we saw with the W Series last year. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if you guys know, but that got cancelled. I think when there was 3 races left, and the
Mm,
championship was immediately just given to Jamie Chadwick, which obviously I think she deserves. I'm a big Jamie Chadwick fan, but it's like one of those
Yeah.
things. It lost all funding because like it was being broadcasted, but it just wasn't really advertised at all. So they couldn't afford to do the
Yeah.
last three races, which sucks. And it kind of then makes people go, oh well, like is it any point watching it if it's don't know how long it's going to last? Like, is it worth getting invested in?
Yeah. I think F1 Academy kind of faces the same fate as W Series if they don't put sponsorships or if they don't advertise it more or don't broadcast it,
Yeah,
even if it's
definitely.
paid per view broadcast or paid broadcasting, it's still better than nothing because W Series is one upping them in that sense because W Series you could watch on free to air TV, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, yeah,
So
you could.
at that time it's just like these women have achieved such incredible things in their careers, like it's such a hard thing to get into being a woman in motorsport as it is,
Right.
and for them to get chosen they deserve to be seen by
Yeah.
all of these people who
Exactly
obviously
right. They
want to
just
see them
deserve
race.
promotion.
And it's not just like them want like a small minority of people wanting to watch them race. There's a lot of people, like a
Yeah.
Yeah.
lot of people, like a lot of F1 drivers, a lot of F1 teams, because obviously like F1 teams, the scouting programs, especially like the FDA, the Red Bull Juniors, all of them,
Yeah.
they want to know what the next
Mm.
talent is looking like. And
Exactly
if the
right.
next talent
Yeah.
happens to be a female, they need to know that because obviously you want the best people in your drivers.
Yeah.
You want them in your driver academies because obviously you want them to take that seat in F1 eventually. And
Exactly.
if
Yeah.
they don't get that opportunity, like it's just wasted potential. Like I
Definitely.
feel so bad for all the amazing women before us, like before this, who obviously haven't had a chance to kind of get into Formula One or
Yeah.
kind of get noticed by certain driver academies. Because I'm pretty sure the only driver that I can think of right now who's in a driver academy who's a woman is Jamie Chadwick in
Yeah.
Williams.
And that's what Lara and I mentioned to ourselves when we're playing this pod is I think the most common one that comes up to mind is Jamie Chadwick, and she's not even in F1 Academy. She's gone over to IndyCar. Like so, like
Indie.
eventually, like her and F1 are just kind of going to either crumble away. I reckon she'll keep building up in IndyCar. So it's like you've got all these other young girls
Mm.
in this academy. Why not put them into some drivers' academies as well? Like I know Abby Pulling is with the Alpine one. And I
Mm.
believe
And then there's
all
a
the
couple
Premier
in
girls are
FDA as well.
Prema. Yes.
Yeah. I believe all the Prema girls are in the FDA. There's also another girl, I've forgotten her name, but she's part of the
Really?
Sauber Academy. But while we were planning this, we could really only think of those five. Now, there might be more, but like we just don't know of them that well, which is quite disappointing.
And I
Yeah,
think, like,
I
in terms of, like, obviously you're only going to be putting it in a driver academy if they think you have a chance of getting an F1 seat. And the reality is a lot of drivers, not just female drivers, just that isn't a reality for them, for like a majority of reasons. But I think by seeing females race on our screens, that encourages young girls to get into karting and start their careers a little bit earlier, and maybe they will make it to F1. Like we probably won't see kind of like the follow-on effects of this for another 10 years. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
and by seeing young women racing, maybe we get more female fans, and especially young female fans, which I think is like an important demographic that obviously we're all a part of.
Yeah.
And kind of taking that stigma of like the old white man away from motorsport, and kind of
100%.
wow,
Yes.
look at these really young talented girls doing what
Yeah.
I want to do, or doing the things that I'm watching boys on my screen do too. So I think
Yeah,
in terms of
Yes.
being seen, the fact it's not broadcasted is sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if you guys can speak to this kind of scenario as well, but I know when I first started getting back into F1 after being a kid that kind of watched it, I was like, oh my God, that would be so cool. And then I went karting for the first time and I was like, why have I never been given the opportunity to do this
Yeah.
before? Like, this is
I think
the most fun I think I've ever had. And even doing it non-competitively, we're not seeing like kids on like we're not seeing girls on a screen where kids are like, oh, I can do that too.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to like a lot of like kids when like I think this is a huge reason why I wasn't into motorsport when I was a child. It's because when I was a child, like for all of us, we were children. Like we were children in the 2000s. We were children in that period where essentially F1 was still a male, and it still is to this
Yeah.
day, it is a male dominated sport.
Mm.
And if you were a girl, like if I was a girl in kindergarten and I went and said to one of the boys in my grade, I like Formula One, they would have probably laughed at you and
Yeah.
probably said, you
Yeah.
don't know anything about cars. Cars are for
Like,
boys.
you
And
almost
I
feel
think
like.
that's kind of what we've grown.
Sorry, I was gonna say it's like you
Sorry,
almost feel
go.
like you've got to be into it to impress somebody, like to impress a guy. Like, oh yeah, I know about F1. Like, you feel like you can't be someone who's like
Yeah.
just into F1. It's like, oh yeah, no, I know who blah blah is.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, like, I know how to, like it's very male dominated. So
Yeah, for the first like three
And
or
I
four
just think
months of
with the
me,
introduction of
for the first
No,
3 or 4
you
months
go,
of me
Katie.
liking F1, my mum was like, "Is there like a boy who likes it that you're trying to like pull?" I was like, "Yeah, Charles Leclerc, you know, like I don't know, like you know what I mean?
I
Like,
know.
oh, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm actually trying to pull. I'm
yeah,
actually trying to pull
Yeah.
Carlos Sainz. It's going really well.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I think
actually,
my
it's so
parents were
cool.
definitely the same for a while. Like, my dad and my older brothers were always into it, and they've been to Singapore a few times to go to the Grand Prix. And when I was younger, my younger brother was promised that when he turned 18, he could go to Singapore. Um, but he could care less about F1. So I'm like, now it's my turn. Like, surely. Like, when are you
Surely.
taking me? And like, obviously, like, COVID's happened, so it's been really difficult. But it's at the same time, it's like, I'm not really being afforded that same, like, privilege, I guess, to get this experience that was promised to a boy rather than, like,
Yeah.
me who cares a
Right.
lot more.
Mm-hmm. I just think that obviously now with the introduction of F1 Academy and a lot of these junior F4, F3 Formula Regional female drivers, like finally women and children, like you could go up to a child in kindergarten today could go up to someone and be like, I want to be a Formula One driver when I grow up, and they could be a girl, and you would say go for it,
Yeah,
Go
because
for it.
at the end of the day, this is now a sport which is becoming more and more equal, and
Yeah.
the rules of Formula One never state anywhere that it has to be that it's got to be males. It's got to
Yeah,
be
exactly.
20 males driving cars, or
No.
20 team principals, or 20 anything.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
a prime example was that with like the rumors that Susie Wolf was going to Williams. Like
Yes, definitely.
everyone wanted to see Susie Wolf in Williams.
Yeah.
And although
Yeah.
she didn't go to Williams, she has a great job at F1 Academy, and she's
Yeah.
doing the utmost best with her job.
Yeah,
And I'm
she's
so
the
like I look up to her
managing
so
director.
much and I admire her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Susie's
that
cool.
did lead me on to my next point, which was going to be how do we feel about Susie Wolf being managing director of F1 Academy?
Perfect.
I love her so
I love
much.
her.
Yeah, she's literally the best
She was
pick for it.
she's the best choice for that job.
For
100%.
sure. I think personally for me, she's proved that despite the fact that she's married to Toto Wolff, like a lot of people are like, oh, you need a strong man behind you. She's proved time and time again that she is her own person that has her own career and can do fantastic things.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like at the end of the day, she's not defined by Toto. Like
No.
Toto doesn't like
Yeah.
nothing that Toto does defines what Susie is.
Yeah, exactly
who
right.
Susie
And like
is.
she's
And
someone
it's the
who's,
opposite way.
been faced with
And
men
I think
saying, "Oh no, you can't have a woman in motorsport." So I think her being the managing director is like a perfect example of someone who struggled to get into the motorsport because of men and is now helping these women get into it. Like I think you couldn't honestly have anyone better doing it.
yeah, I think it speaks to like seeing females not only driving the cars but involved in the journalism of it, involved in the
Yes.
engineering of it, and involved in the managing of teams, involved in the PR behind the teams, as well as the ones driving the cars. The more women we see, literally the more women we see, the more women feel welcome. And
Yeah.
I think that's like a big part of like what we do is like, what do you want to call us,
Yeah.
F1 content creators? We just have
Yeah.
to be the voice and be the people that the girls can look at and be like, oh, I want to be like them. Because if we can't see them, we
Yeah.
can't aspire to be them.
Exactly
Yeah.
right.
And I do think a big part of that is obviously, I think Katie can attest to this probably the most out of all of us, but not tearing down women in motorsport.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, we're all in this for one goal. We're all in this together. As High School Musical says, we're all
Yeah.
in this together. But, like, at the end of the day, we're all here because we like to watch 20 drivers drive around funny shapes every single or most Sundays or
Yeah.
Saturdays. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we can't be out here bashing each other or
Exactly
at each
right.
other's throats constantly,
For sure.
Yeah.
just waiting for each other to mess up. Like the fact that there are people there just like waiting and willing to nitpick everything you say or everything you do because you're a woman in motorsport. Like
Yeah.
the amount of
Yeah.
times you get the comments of, oh, you're a Drive to Survive fan, you're just a bandwagon, blah 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 blah
Yeah.
blah.
You just like them because they're
At,
cute. Like, you don't care
like
for the
at the end
sport.
of the day, if you were a female and you saw Charles Leclerc, would you not think that he is cute?
Yeah.
Like at
Like,
the end of, even if you're a male and you think Charles Leclerc is cute, like I don't judge because
right?
he
Yeah.
is a stunning man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
yeah, that's
but
my
also
thoughts.
Yeah, no, 100% agree.
I think there's this whole especially women who have been involved in the sport for a long time have been fighting to get rid of the stereotype that we just watch it for the hot drivers, or I don't even like, they're like, oh, I've never watched it for the hot drivers, I've never even found a driver hot. And like, to those people I say,
Yeah, exactly.
I completely understand if you don't, but it's so okay if you do. And I think it's so okay to find the drivers attractive and not talk about it at all. And it's also okay to find the drivers attractive and talk about it. Like, that doesn't take away your badge as an F1, that doesn't take away your honor as an F1 fan. And I think a lot of
It doesn't
the
make you any less of a fan.
Yeah.
exactly, and I think a lot of the
a
women
major issue
who
surrounding that is that that's how men are like.
yeah. And I think when women see, and they aren't that stereotype, they aren't that, oh, I only watch it for the hot driver stereotype, I didn't get into it because of DTS stereotype. When they see girls who talk about how hot the drivers are and got into it through DTS, they're like, you are bringing down us. Like, you're bringing down women in F1 as a whole. And it's like, no, I'm not. I'm just enjoying it the way that I want to enjoy it, and the way that you enjoy it doesn't have to be the same as somebody else. But at the end of the day, as Tiana said, you always have that one thing in common, that you love those drivers going around the track every Monday morning, because we don't live in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I guess personally for you, Caity, obviously you experienced some pretty severe canceling from a lot of people recently. Like, how did you find that? Was it predominantly men? Was it like women as well? Like, what was that like for you as like an
Actually, 21-year-old
aspiring
women.
aspiring
Almost
content
21-year-old
creator
women.
or content creator?
Not you guys, but stay
They're
safe.
dodgy.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of everything. So I always say that I found that I used to get the just a DTS fan a lot from men in my earlier days, and now I don't see them as much. But with the incident that happened a month or so ago, it was a lot of women, a lot of men, definitely younger, because those are the kind of people who interact with TikTok, which is where it all happened. And I think, like, I'm not going to get into like what happened, blah 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 blah, but
No,
I think
totally.
it's just like, it was a really hard time for me, and it's like I'm constantly learning from it, and I think about it often, and I'm choosing to use it as a learning
And you're
opportunity
so young
for how
too.
I interact with people. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
for
I'm an
sure.
adult now. I'm 18.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of fun. Kind of 18 now. Me and Ollie have stepped over that
Ollie and I.
threshold to both. Sorry, far out. Okay, Ollie and I are both 18 now, which isn't really relevant to the story, but it's just fun that Ollie and I have a similar birthday. But I think any type of hate is horrible. It doesn't matter who it comes from, and it's such an ugly part of social media. And I think you have to sometimes step back and think, how would it feel to be that person? Waking up in the morning and seeing people talk on Twitter about how they don't want you to be alive anymore, or how you should be admitted to a mental hospital. And like, I'm really grateful that I had like the best support system behind me throughout all of this. I had people talking to me from like within, the content creator industry, like saying like, it's fine, like you are going to be okay. And then I had people like Tiana who picked up all of my FaceTime calls of me crying. But it was, it's all over now, and not all over, but
it's still something like
it's
prime example of
Yeah.
women bringing women down in a sport you're all meant to be into.
Yeah.
Like, and it's
Yeah.
wrong. It's, and then that's like
I
you
also
said earlier,
don't-
Katie. No, you
I
go.
also don't think it's
You go.
wrong when someone makes a mistake to call them out for it.
Oh,
Like, I am
yeah.
not like, they had
100%
every right to have
sure.
a
But
problem
you
with
draw
what
the
I said.
line. Yeah. That there's a line that you
But
draw.
that doesn't
like,
mean
there's
that
a
you
difference
deserve.
between calling
Yeah,
out
it's
someone and then, threatening and then saying awful things to
bullying
someone.
them
Like,
about it.
it's not hard to just be in someone's DM to go, hey, just like an FYI, what you've posted, it's a bit like, oh, careful with that.
And
Maybe
what
have a
you
look at it.
posted,
It's
maybe do
so,
it 6 months ago when it happened, rather
Yeah.
than
yeah,
6 months down the
exactly
track,
right.
bring it up again and again and again.
Literally.
And
Yeah.
it's got to the point where I have a different, just like a public different TikTok account, and people will comment that kind of stuff on my account. I'm like, hey, like, I have a whole TikTok that's dedicated to motorsport. Go over there and talk to me
Yeah, so,
about
like,
motorsport.
yeah.
I will
fuck out
talk to
my
you all day
private
about
life.
it, but you
Yeah.
don't need to talk to me about this thing on here. And yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
interesting
exactly
Yeah.
right.
that people
I
feel that
I think
it
the
has
main
to bring
thing was
every.
just sorry, but I think the main thing was the sheer amount of Twitter threads
Oh,
that we were finding, and just like these people were like, I got one of my friends to do a deep dive on one of these people. This girl's like 21 and living in like Ireland.
yeah.
If Katie and this girl both lived in Australia, she could be arrested for cyberbullying. Like,
That-
that's how bad some of these tweets
Jesus.
are.
Yeah.
Which is, if you put that into perspective, you're gonna get put in jail with serial killers, murderers, all of these kind of things because you bullied a child because she said something wrong 6 months ago and she's
Yeah.
apologized for it and she's changed. But do you really
Yeah.
think that justifies you going to jail? Like, honestly,
Yeah.
I think that's
And
wrong.
like to
You
even
should.
be threatening someone in general, like it's just crazy how social
Yeah.
media works, especially Twitter. Twitter's a scary place. I don't go on Twitter. It gives me anxiety.
To be
Yeah,
fair,
and I guess, like,
it got to the point where people were like DMing me with the different Twitter threads, and I was like, hey, I appreciate you looking out for me, but like, I can't do this anymore. I can't read people saying something about something that I think I'm so passionate about and I put so much time and energy into my account. And people saying like, oh, she's always freaked me out. Like, she needs to go back to the mental hospital. Like, I don't understand how anyone in their right mind would post this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, like, I spend hours like making content for the people who love it, and I'm so thankful for those people. But I also think to the people who were saying stuff, I know you're not listening, but
But if you are,
I completely understand why you were saying it, and it's not okay. But I hope that as I will take this as a learning opportunity, you guys will take this as a learning opportunity to reflect on yourself and have some empathy. Think about how I was feeling in those moments, or think about
exactly
how
right.
you would feel if somebody was saying those things about something. You put your time and energy into it, no matter what it was. If it was the way you're performing on the sports field, or the way you're performing at school, or some other form of art that you love. Yeah,
Well, you do
but
amazing
also this is bigger than just women bringing down women, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's
I mean, I
crazy
really
how
think it
does
speaks to
all
the
unfortunately
whole.
linked to being F1 fans and the way it all goes. Like,
Yeah, I think it all leads back to kind of the boys' club that F1 had always been, and now it is making progress. Like, it is no longer just a boys' club. But as I'm sure most of us saw recently, there was the whole pit stop boys situation where,
Oh,
personally for me,
my
like this
lord.
morning, I was listening to Going Purple, and this was an old episode that Lissy had done with the pit stop boys. And even listening to their perspective then and knowing what I know now, they really just, to me, they really just drive home the sense of a boys' club. And
Yeah,
like, they
sure.
could do exactly what Katie had done and receive no attention from it. And
For sure.
which is just so infuriating and frustrating.
It is. It sucks. And I think I have like a bit of a weird take on it, but this is purely because I just believe that even though we're all human, we all make mistakes, we're bound to mess up. And I'm not excusing anything they said, anything they did, or anything that they've, because obviously what they said when I'm watching that podcast, I was like, are you okay? Like, why are you saying this? Are you a bit too drunk? Like, this is not what you should be saying on a podcast.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, if they came out, and I didn't watch their apology mostly because I couldn't be bothered to watch it, I don't have
You don't
time.
really
But a,
deserve the time.
but a lot of people were just saying that they kind of blamed it all on cancel culture, which is not correct.
No.
Like at the
No.
end of the day, if they came out and they said, okay, you know what, we acknowledge everything that we have said is wrong, we will try and make up for this
Yeah.
in the future, and they went on and started actually improving what they were talking
Yeah.
about and actually showing that they care about the sport. And you know, like I saw some of the comments on their TikTok, because one of the TikToks came on my For You page, and it said someone commented something about, oh, I can't wait to see you back to your race debriefs, and then they commented back saying, oh, don't come to us for information, and then with a laughing face emoji. And I was like at the end of the day, you've dug yourself into such a deep
Yeah.
hole where, you know, it's hard to come back from, and you're not making it any easier for yourself. Like, I was rooting for you to come out and just, you know, do the best you can to kind of recover the situation, because it's all you can do. With for people who get such good opportunities, that's all they could have
Like,
done.
if they
And
cared
to see that they didn't,
and enjoyed their podcast the way that they promote they do, and enjoy interviewing these people and doing all this, you would think they would have a bit more respect, and the apology wouldn't have been something put through an AI machine to see, like, what to say.
oh yeah,
Like, you would think they'd have a
like
bit more, you know, pity, like feeling back, not pity, sorry, like,
self-respect.
yeah, exactly
Yeah.
right. Like, you've interviewed people that we could only dream about interviewing, like, that we, all four of us, know we're going to have to work to get to. Like, that's not something that could come overnight for us, whereas for them it has come overnight, and they've taken advantage of that. And then you know, it's, in a weird way, it's kind of belittling. Like, you kind of feel like you are such an underdog, and especially as a woman now, like, it's like, oh gosh, okay, we're gonna have to really try, like, make these efforts. Whereas they went like a week without saying anything, and then they did an apology, and then it was just, they moved on, and then they're back to
And like,
And I don't know this as a fact, so anyone that's watching this, or any of you guys, if you know this better than me, feel free to correct me. But I believe from the beginning, they actually had a media company backing them. So they didn't build themselves from the ground up. They actually started off a step ahead of everyone else.
yeah, which is obviously, it's so painful, because especially for people like us who are obviously trying so hard to get into
and then
Formula
we're all
One.
relying on Katie.
And Formula One, yeah, we're all relying on Katie.
Katie's our life.
But like, you know, it's such an inaccessible sport as it is. Like, it's hard. There's the stat that Lissy McIntosh always says, and it's like 99% of F1 fans will never get to witness a race live.
Yeah.
Like, that's a shocking stat to have, especially in a sport like Formula One, which is such a widely known sport. And I think that's kind of why a lot of people got mad, because they're like, well, these people don't really care about
Yeah,
Formula One.
exactly
They don't really
right.
care about the actual sport in
You know,
general.
they're going to these races
Why do they get to interview our idols?
Yeah, exactly right. Like, you know, you see them going to these races, you know, based on paddock passes and stuff, and you just think, like, what? Like, how?
Like, they recorded a video with Quadrant. That's like my dream to do.
Right?
And you know, sitting next to, being on Screaming Meals as it is my dream goal.
Yeah.
Being on Screaming Meals.
For sure.
And to be on Screaming Meals, sitting next to Clement Novalak, the one, the only, and then just blatantly say, no one cares about racing. Like, and then ask for, like, oh, we should have gifts, or blah, 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 blah. Like, I just kind of had to take a step back, and I was like, if I was on Screaming Meals, I would ask for nothing. I would just be
Right?
I would pay you to be on Screaming
Yeah,
Meals.
Literally.
You have to pay me. I
Like,
would pay you.
What wine do you want me to bring? Like, tell me what you want and I'll bring it.
Like one more year and I'll be there. One more year. Just to, like,
No,
let me get to 18
and I think-
I can drink on the podcast and we'll be
Yeah,
fine.
we'll
Even like pull a Jack Crawford.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I just think that there's so many, and I think Rory was pretty smart. Like, I want to say that Rory was kind of a mastermind, like he was planning their downfall through that episode.
Rory does chase
Because
I mean,
I don't
like, this is it.
Like, I
Yeah,
definitely
literally.
My time to
think
die.
that
Gotta
you're
get rid of the
probably
competition.
right. Like, in the sense I think in the sense they totally did it to themselves, right? Like, Rory probably had, like, let's say 2 hours of footage to edit. And I'm sure he put in what was probably the best of the worst. Now, obviously, we can't assume that. Like, we haven't seen all the footage. We don't know. but I feel like it's unlikely that they would actively put out a video that's incredibly degrading to someone without
Yeah.
having a reason, I guess.
And I do think a lot of the people who were kind of getting mad at screening meals, like I do understand Clem, Marcus, and James, and Rory as well, do need to take some kind of responsibility for letting that episode air out. But at the same time, you can see on Clem, James, and Marcus's face how uncomfortable they truly are.
For sure.
Like, I've never seen, like, you read body language. I've never seen someone so uncomfortable than I've seen Clem and James. Like, Clem
For
was literally,
sure.
like, this close. Like, he was, like, this on James because he just didn't want to go near
Yeah,
Fat
I
or
think
whatever
JM was having a similar situation where he was very close to Marcus.
to
And
Marcus.
honestly, like Marcus as well, like I think we didn't see as much of that side of the couch when the whole thing was happening because obviously I assume JM was probably feeling a bit, here and
Uncomfortable.
there.
And I
But
do,
I feel so bad for all of them generally. And I understand that for none of them was their intention to express this, but that doesn't
yeah,
excuse anyone's behavior. And as much as I love the Screaming Meals boys, I do think that, they obviously have some responsibility for what happened. Not
yeah.
not that I think that they should be like, yeah, this was all our fault because, they didn't say those words, but I think maybe they should try and address it. Or at least just say, hey, look, like JM is our friend, like we're disappointed that this happened.
Yeah, for sure.
I think JM needs a huge pat on the back.
Oh,
I
for
would
sure.
have lost my mind.
At the end of the day, to go through. Yeah, I would have lost
Like,
my mind.
just
I've
sitting there, I was
lost
just
it at all
oh
of
my
them. Especially
God.
going through what JM
Exactly.
going through what JM did. Like,
Yeah, and then just
you can't say, and especially for them, they can't say, "Oh, we didn't know," because there's an entire
Right?
show that's
Dedicated to
the
that.
Ferrari seat talking about Antoine Hubert's death. And if you
Yeah.
bothered to actually kind of do your research and get into Formula One, like you said you were going to, you would look up who Antoine Hubert was, and you would look, and then the second thing that comes up when you search up Antoine Hubert is Juan Manuel Correa.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you'd connect the dots in your head, and you'd be like, oh my gosh, this guy is actually amazing. It's actually godsend that he's racing amongst us today.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
first of all, a godsend that he's with us today, surviving a crash that someone
Yeah.
died from.
Yeah, exactly.
And to be back in racing only 3 years later, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine
Well,
that.
I don't know if you guys know much about Sophia Florsch.
Yes.
But like she is another incredible, inspiring woman who also had a very severe crash and is incredibly lucky to be alive. And like I was doing some research on her today, and I was so, I guess, floored by the fact that she's back racing so soon, I guess, like after this massive crash. Like it's inspiring, truly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I
no.
agree. I think it's incredibly inspiring.
Yeah, I agree. It is so inspiring. Like, Juan Manuel Correa is twice the man that I would have been if I was sitting on
for
that
sure.
couch and they started saying that stuff to me.
Literally.
Because I would not have agreed.
I'm too
I would have not
sensitive. I
agreed
would
to
have
go
started
on their
crying. I'd be
podcast.
like, I'm leaving. Especially after a glass of wine. I would be like,
Sorry.
fuck these motherfuckers, I'm out. And I would have been sobbing.
Beyond that,
Looking at like
I think beyond that, like you guys talked about like opportunities and stuff, and for women, they just aren't necessarily there. And I think, like especially with stream meals, they have majority women guests, men guests. Anyway, but also like I mean like do you remember when Lissy went on Screaming Meals, and she's not someone who talks about how hot the drivers are and stuff, but
Yeah.
they asked her about it. Thought that was
I think like a good example of Lizzie is when they asked her who she thought who they thought was hot, who she thought was hot on their one grid, and she was like, "Do you ask all your guests that?" And that goes back to the whole issue of that. Is that just what we're into? Like, as
Yeah,
it's like, do we just
I
like
think
they're cute? Like,
to give my 2 cents on the situation is I don't think that the boys asked that in a you're a girl
No.
sense. I truly think that they asked it in a, you're someone who works in
Yeah.
F1, you like F1. And these men also regularly discuss how hot the drivers are.
Yeah.
Like James
Like,
Harvey
if-
Blair is
Yeah.
Charles Leclerc
Like-
until he
like if-
dies.
literally, like they were literally calling Kevin and like Nico like
Yeah.
daddy the other day. I'm like, they and like, of course it's not fair that just like that women get asked these questions like anyway.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
I think it wasn't supposed to be exclusive to Lissy. But I am like, I love that she stood up for
Because
herself.
I've
And
never asked her that. Like, I can't remember if they've mentioned it, like asked that question before, but I think it was one of the, like, I know amongst themselves they've said, oh yeah, we think blah blah is attractive, but I don't think they've actually ever even asked one of the boys they've had on the pod. So I think that, yeah, good, she stood up for herself, because like, you know, that's an issue we face. Like, you kind of look at it and then people do the whole, oh, so like, who's your favorite driver? Like, oh, do you think they're hot? Is that why? Yeah, like, oh, you like the Ferrari boys, is it because they're cute? And you're like, no.
Yeah, no.
You know, and it's frustrating. Well, I mean, yeah, it's like, oh, but no.
It is.
To talk about like journalism as well and women getting into journalism, and obviously, Tiana, you were saying how that's something you're interested in doing as well, like whether it be motorsport or footy, like that you were mentioning that that's something you would be into. Why is that? Like, what's kind of pushed you to be into journal? Like, I guess we're all kind of all doing journalism in a weird way, but
Yeah.
like, do you have any game plans of like studying it further? Like, is there any like specific?
This is the weird story of how it started.
Yeah.
This is how the weird story. So when I was in year 9, this all kind of started like late year 9, early year 10. I used to want to be a dermatologist.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why. Want to be a dermatologist. One time, I think this was as soon as the 2021 COVID lockdown literally just ended, my auntie came to my house, and then I just started spitting all the NRL facts that I knew and all the NRL news and everything. And she was like, Tiana, you know what? I think you'd be a good sports journalist. And then it kind of just sat with me in the back of my mind. And then when I started getting into Formula One, obviously,
Yeah.
I just started thinking, you know what? I actually think that this job is for me. Like, I do. If you know me, I don't stop talking.
Yeah.
I talk 24/7. I could.
We're the perfect group of people.
We literally are.
we're your worst. We're the audience's worst nightmare.
Yeah,
Literally.
talking over top of each other.
Like, we're just like,
So-
clones.
And so then it kind of, that idea's just kind of been in the back of my mind since then. And then so it wasn't until, like, you know, I'm kind of lucky in the sense that we kind of keep having these talks in like our year meetings, like, what do you want to do with your life, blah 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 blah, and like everyone around me is like, nah, I don't know what I want to do, I don't know what I do want to do, and I'm like, I know what I want.
I've got an idea.
So
Yeah.
I know what I want to do, and I'm halfway there.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's just like,
Put your foot in the door.
And-
yeah, that's what the
Yeah.
thing is. Like, F1 is such an inaccessible sport, like we've mentioned before. It's all really like at this point, it's kind of not even about your skill anymore. It's just who you know,
Yeah,
not what you know.
100%.
Essentially, like, it sucks that it's come to this, but it's the way it is nowadays. Like, it's not even like what you know and your skills, it's who you know.
Yeah,
And
but
I think by starting,
we're lucky, like,
Yeah,
as women who are happy to collab with each other, because you'd find a lot of people with like, I don't want to do that, because it's almost like you're giving away your secrets. Like,
Yeah.
you have a lot of people who
and I'm like,
are very like, no, I don't want to be a part of that because I don't want you to have what I want. And then it's like, okay, don't stress. Like, I think we're lucky that so many of us who are female fans are so happy to collab with one another and talk to one another and actually, like, you know, get in contact and have friendships, not just base it off of a work thing, but like, you know, meet people in general. Which,
yeah.
Yeah, I
And so
agree.
yeah, that's like kind of my.
Everybody
Katie.
who I've spoken to within like the industry has been so lovely, and I have asked like a few people to be on the podcast, and they've all been like, "Yeah, sure, like when," because I think people are so keen to tell their story and have a platform to tell their story as F1 fans. Like, that's what I find. So many people are so keen to tell their story, which I think is the most beautiful thing. It's one of my favorite things when I'll talk about how I got into Formula One, and people just start telling me their stories on like my TikTok. I'm like, that's the most beautiful thing. I think women generally in like the content creator space, especially I think like younger women kind of like our age, are so keen just to like fill the gaps that we see in the industry. Like, I know there's a lot of young girls filling the gap of cute merch and stuff like that, you know, like it's so cool.
Yeah. like even today, one of the ladies that we were on a podcast with, her name's Chris. She DM'd me and was like, Tiana, like I'm struggling to do this on my own. Like I'm struggling to do my podcast on my own. Do you know anyone who is keen to be a co-host on my podcast? And I put a story up on my Instagram, and I'd say like about a dozen people responded to my story saying, yeah, I would be so keen. I would be so like, I'm so keen to do it. And I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And I was like low-key stressed that no one was gonna respond to my story.
Yeah.
So it's just like,
It's quite
I was just like living in that fear.
how many people,
Yeah, which I guess
men
takes
as well, like who are just fans like us that are so passionate on making content. Like I think it makes it good because it makes it so much more accessible. And then we have these opportunities, like
It does.
and then we're kind of like
And
all of this together at High School Musical.
Yeah. And I guess, well, like for you guys, like Tiana, this From the Field to the Track obviously started as like your podcast, but Caity, how did you and Tiana too, like how did you guys decide to kind of make this into a duo? Was this sort of like a cleanse situation where he just like invited himself in? Like, tell us about it.
So the story, yeah, she did a Clement Novalek.
That's about right.
What happened was on the very first episode of my podcast, it's called Hippopotamuses or Hippopotami, purely because this is my claim to fame. I recorded that episode in my study class. Me and my three friends had wired headphones, were speaking into voice notes connected to our laptops during our study lesson, and the teacher was like so mad at us because we kept talking and it was meant to be quiet, but we were like, this is the only time we can do this. So we started talking, and it kind of went from there. And obviously that was a shocking episode because it was just all over the place. It was just everything. And then so that was shocking. But so one of my best friends, Marie, I asked her to pull a James Harvey Blair, so that because we kind of need someone who's there, someone who's there to be the voice of reason and just the backbone, the ultimate backbone. And she's like, she just helps me. She just helps me be calm and composed. Like she doesn't know much about the actual editing process and everything, but she's just there to help Tiana Sones be calm and composed and be a co-host on our weekly debriefs. But as for Caity, Caity and my friendship is a bit weird. She does not keep me calm. She does the absolute opposite.
I can tell.
She
That was obvious from
she stresses me out. So
Don't worry, that's me and Georgia. I think every time we're talking, I throw Georgia under the bus about every 10 minutes, and she's like, "Lara, what the fuck are you doing?"
There's always those duos.
And I'm just like, Caity, you can't say this stuff, man. And it's just like it's all, but it makes for good entertainment.
Yeah, exactly.
Tiana always tells a story that I asked to be on the podcast, blah 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 blah, which is true.
No, I never say that. I know what the
Okay.
Caity's like, this is all lies.
Yeah, okay, sorry, Tiana. Okay, Tiana is like my biggest fan, still is to this day. Tiana and I met like 6 months ago, maybe. Yeah, about 6 months ago. It conveniently coincided with another event in my life.
Probably.
And Tiana and I were
Inside.
talking, and she was like, oh, please, can you like listen to my podcast? And this is in like my era where like I was finding a lot of people were like messaging me and like, oh, can you like post this? Can you make a video about this? Which I'm like always keen to do. And I was like, oh, this is just another girl who's like, can you please listen to my podcast? And then
It's just another person trying to suck up my ass.
And then I thought Tiana was like the sweetest.
Yeah, literally.
So she was honestly being so sweet to me. And I don't even think she wanted me to, but I made a TikTok and I did an Instagram post about it. And then we continued talking and realized that me and Tiana are essentially the same person in different fonts. But so I was like, can I be on the pod? She was like, I think, did you ask me or did I ask? I don't know. We somehow decided that I wanted to be on a podcast.
We started talking just randomly because I accidentally sent her a message I wasn't meant to send her, and then kind of just started the friendship from there. And then I just kind of asked her because I was just kind of one day I was like, well, you know what? Caity kept like subtly dropping like, you know what? Like one day I should be on the podcast, and I was like, okay, you know what? I need guests because I'm going nowhere in life. So, Caity, do you want to be on the podcast? And Caity was like, absolutely, I want to be on the podcast. Yep. And we did an hour and 20-minute long episode about gosh knows what we talked about because it was a lot.
It was the first time Tiana and I had like off like Instagram. It was the first time we'd ever talked and like on like FaceTimey type, you know what I mean? Like we've never even FaceTimed. And I can remember after the episode finished, we like talked for like another hour because it was just like me and her just clicked in a way that I've
That
never
was literally Lara.
experienced.
And then
Like, I kid you not, Lara and I's story is the exact same. It was like we talked on the phone a few times, we hadn't met, and then we did the podcast, the first episode, and then we did not shut up. And then we were still just sitting on Riverside after, like, anyways, just what I want to do. I like, just kept going.
So what are you doing today?
Literally, and then we talked to each other like religiously every single day.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's
literally,
us.
Yeah.
like we've become like attached to the hip. It's
so cool though that that's how you meet
That is
people.
so cute.
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And
like,
I think it's the
it's
coolest
weird.
thing
I
that
like
we have this thing that connects us all.
Yeah.
And, like it's such a
Yeah.
lever like to making friends. Like I don't necessarily have to get along with someone, but I can be like, oh, what did you think of the race on the weekend? And like there's 10 minutes of conversation with somebody. Like I have it with not only like girls my age or like boys my age, but like people like family friends and stuff like that. It's something that I feel comfortable talking about, and it's not like, oh, what do you want to do after, like what do you want to do when you finish school? Like it's not boring with like family friends. I'm like, you know, let's chat, you know.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. It's really cool. I'm really glad that like it's really weird. I've used Katie's TikToks that came on my For You page all the time before I started my podcast. So then I followed her, and then kind of
Kept like going,
it kind of spiraled. Yeah. It kind of spiraled from there.
yeah.
And it's wild. Like it's wild to think. This time last year, I didn't know who Katie was.
I know,
Like,
it's
it's
I
crazy.
feel like that's
I didn't know who she was.
weirdest thought. Like, I feel like I've known Lara for so long, and like I've literally known her for 3 weeks. And I think that's such a crazy part of it too. But like even in general, over the OzGP weekend, I met so many people. Like, you know, me and Lara have another friend, Tia, as well.
I think the weirdest thing about the OzGP weekend is it was before Georgia and I had met, but we were still talking. And I reckon I walked past Georgia like 3 or 4 times. I don't reckon she had a clue that it was me. But I like walked past her and I was like,
Really
is
bad.
it? I was like talking to my friend that was with me. I was like, I think I know her, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, like
I think I would have walked past one of you. Like you both look so
I was
familiar
about
to me.
to
I
say,
for sure have walked.
it's weird because it's like you all look so familiar. Like, especially you. Like, it's, you kind of go like, oh, wait a second. Like, I feel like I saw the same person.
Did I know you?
GP, and I'm like, every time I walk past, I was like, wait a second. I was like, I know you. I've seen you 50 times. Like, it's weird because it's so big, but it's so small. Like, you see everyone. Like, it was weird.
Yeah, it's like I'm pretty sure I saw all 284,000
I'm dead set
people,
on
or however many.
Right? Yeah.
No,
I'm pretty sure I could.
No, I reckon.
My favorite part of the OzGP though
But not poor.
Yeah.
had to be the guys that were sitting in the what's the stand on the straight? What's it called? I forgot. Oh, the Fangio stand. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were sitting there, and they were sitting on the last, like the closest one to my stand, which was the center stand, and they were like Dino Beganovic fans, and Dino is Swedish, and they were like walking around the track with their little Swedish flags and their little Swedish backpacks, and it was the most wholesome, adorable thing I have ever witnessed in my entire life. Because I was like, I now want to be a Dino fan purely because of these people. Like, it was the most wholesome.
Yeah.
It was. And they were probably like in their like mid-40s maybe, and they were carrying around their little Swedish flags, and they had a giant Swedish flag like hanging from the stand as well. And I was just like,
that's adorable.
This is adorable. I wish we were Swedish now.
Are we all ready for OzGP 2024?
Oh yes, for sure. I need to go back.
The red flags was just mental.
Oh, that was like, I'm convinced the FIA was just,
They
I don't
had
know
a
what
time
they
of their
had
life.
too
They
much
were
fun the night before.
like love it.
They were playing games. They were just like
They were vibing to probably the trackside music that I
Yeah,
was
literally.
like. They would put Dua Lipa on during the restart, and I was like, okay, we're listening to Dua Lipa. It's like One Kiss, and I was like, okay, red flag. People hitting the barriers left, right, and center, and then it's like Dua Lipa, and then it crosses to Carlos Crown, and I'm like,
Literally, it's just Carlos.
then it crossfades out. Then it fades out to another song, and I think it was equally upbeat.
Yeah,
and I was just like, "Oh my lord!"
It was hectic. On that note of speaking of the funny parts of the OzGP, our final question for you, ladies, is, do you have any memes from the Miami GP? And if so, which one has been your favourite so far? We've personally been like riding over Charles's hands. I don't know how that happened. Also, yeah, Will.
Oh, those are
Like, do you guys have
horrible.
any memes that have stuck out to you guys that you want to share with?
Oh, mine have to be the influencers, Alfa Romero. The influencers that went to I was like, okay, I love Alex Earl, I really do. Like the Alfa Romero,
Yeah,
like oh
that
my
was
lord,
good.
like
But
I like
also-
Alex Earl, I really do. She's an icon. I like Meredith
also-
too, but they don't know about Formula One, and it was just like it was just painful watching them try and like say that they, like be
Yeah, I
relatable.
didn't know who
Like
either
oh,
of
like
Mm.
these tickets were like
literally,
$1,000,
I didn't know who either of them were.
and like I got in for
And
free.
yeah, I didn't know who either of them were. I didn't know until they came up on my TikTok, and I kept seeing like the jokes about it, like going on and on and on. I was like, who are these people? And it's like, oh, these guys that were invited, and you just go, oh my god, oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also on
It's
that
so
whole
funny.
What about you,
influencer
Katie?
thing, sorry to like be upsetting. It wasn't the influencers' fault that they got invited, right? They just
Yeah.
took a free trip. But
Oh
I
yeah,
do
literally.
think
Like you
it
kind
is
of think.
so funny.
Oh, for
And
sure.
it was like I was like, oh my god, that's funny as like I all of the stuff that I saw was just like, oh god, this is like so funny. And like people like, do you even know what DRS is? Like just pretending to be
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
they're
typical
smart
male fan
buses.
to these influencers. And I was like, oh, that's actually funny as
I know. I
but,
love how we've just spent
I
a whole
mean,
podcast saying how us women need to back each other up, and now we're literally.
like
Just like
What a weird turn this
destroying the
took.
word.
Whoops.
exactly.
Just cadet.
But
Yeah,
I
this
think
took a real
they
bad
can see
turn.
like the funny part of it that it's like
Yeah.
why, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also like I don't know, like if like someone called you up and was like, hey, I have tickets to like I don't know, like an NBA game, I'd be like, when do I leave?
Well, exactly.
I'd
You'd
go.
be like,
You know,
we're
'cause I
going.
don't know anything.
Like, literally, like, if you got tickets to anything for free, you'd be like, yeah, okay, I'll be there. That's the
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
Like, you can't blame them. Like,
Yeah.
110%
And
you'd be going.
I think the problem doesn't really lie with the influencers because obviously like the influencer, if I was an influencer and I got invited to like I don't know anything about
Yeah.
soccer, but if I got invited to like the World Cup, hands down
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
going. I am going.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Like okay, but at the end of the day, it's just like the brand itself needs to do a lot of
Yeah.
research. Like the stat that Lizzie McIntosh just said that I've said before, it's like 99% of fans will never get to watch an F1 race
Yeah,
live. And there
Yeah,
are
for
people who
sure.
aren't even fans who get to go and watch races, which I think, you know,
Yeah.
it's cool. We're getting so many more people involved in the sport, and I love that. I am so here for it. I love when people get involved in Formula One. But I'm also like, there are so many people. Like, I know my dad has been a Formula One fan since he was living in Dubai, like
Yeah,
back in the
right.
day. And
That's
and
level.
the first race he went to was the Oz GP this year,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
We love that.
Like, and I just think there were so many opportunities for women and like for not for women, just general
Generally,
fans. Like,
yeah.
I know F1 in America has become so widely popular at the moment, but even like offering those F1 fans a chance to get in these experiences that Tart and Revlon had, like it would be absolutely amazing. Like
For
what
sure.
the cruises place, I think it was M&O Cruises, what they did
MSC.
for MSC Cruises, what they did for She Loves F1,
Yeah.
like she's
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
deserving
that's
of it. And you know,
Oh, yeah. Easily.
like that's a prime example of someone doing their research and knowing that you know
Absolutely.
these are people who's like let's face it, at the end of the day, Alex Earl's target audience isn't what F1's target audience is.
No.
Like, it's not gonna help F1 in any way, shape, or form because it's
Yeah.
not boosting their views. Whereas,
And I think that's why. Oh, sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
No, I was going to say, I think that's why I'm glad that like people like us are here to kind of, I guess, in a sense, bridge that gap. Like where women who are interested in things like makeup, but you know, Formula One is also a massive interest of ours. So like
Clearly
we're there to like bridge that
Yeah.
gap.
And
Clearly, they
also-
didn't watch my OzGP vlog where I had 14 minutes of me doing my own makeup, but I had to cut it down to like 2 minutes because it was like 14 minutes in length, and I was like, great.
Yeah.
But I think also like the content that influencers like F1 content creators would have made would have been like really cool and would have been really cool ads for Tarte or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So it was like that would have been really cool to see that, and it would kind of, as you said, Lara, bridge the gap.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well,
And well, I think on that note, we might wrap that up for today. But thank you guys so much.
Lara's good.
But no, thank you guys so much for coming on the pod. We have
Thank
had
you
the
for
most
having us.
fantastic time with you guys. Any final words before we wrap it up?
Thank you so much for having us on your podcast. It means the world. We are literally the same person, so see, we're saying the same thing again. But I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful for this opportunity that you've given to both of us to be on your podcast. And obviously, anytime you want a guest or two, someone to talk about Taylor Swift, Fernando
We come as a
Alonso,
package deal.
call us up. You have our numbers.
Yeah, of
You can call
course.
Tiana and
no,
Caity
thank
up.
you so much. It's been so much
So-
fun, especially for our first collab. I'm like, I
Thank
don't want it
you.
to end. I'm definitely going to want to do another one now.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, and we can touch base again.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
For sure.
When Taylor
Well,
Swift-
thank you guys again. Thank you
Thank
guys
you so
for
much
coming
for
on.
having us.
Artlist.io